Real heavy!
What's up, freaks? Welcome to welcome to Real Heavy Podcast. I'm James.
And I'm Rhett. We're back at it again.
Back again. We're gonna start doing these videos or podcast episodes of us just riffing and talking about some of the shit we listen to. We listen to a fuckload of metal music.
Like
a shitload.
Anything under the sun, basically. It's like no stones unturned. So
yeah,
if there's anyone who should take our opinions from, take it from us.
Yeah, we're huge heavy music nerds. So I guess the goal with this podcast is just to share kind of like what we're listening to, so that we can kind of keep people in the loop of new releases and kind of what's going on. And it's cross genre. So this is not just like a death metal podcast or like, metalcore podcast. It's everything. But to stay organized, we'll try to break it down as best we can by, genre or grouping. But yeah, there's a fuck ton of music that came out this month.
It's stupid.
It's stupid. It's the Renaissance. 2024 was a insane year for the metal community, just in terms of like the amount of great releases. And I think 2025 is gonna shape up to be just as deadly.
And even just getting guys into the scene, like you're seeing bands who are kind of coming up from the ashes and starting to play and tour again. And you get those guys those entry level bands, and then once you start listening to them, you start getting into the niche shit. And this is where we come into play, because we like all that niche shit.
Yeah, so all the underground stuff.
If you like certain bands, like certain mainstream in the scene bands, I guess, then it's like we got tons of bands here that we listen to that got parts of them that you can definitely hear in other bands' sound. So that's why we kind of wanted to share and make sure nobody misses out on any new releases.
Absolutely. So we'll kind of describe we'll go down the list of everything we've crushed in January, and these are albums only, so no EPs, no demos or anything like that. Maybe down the road we'll start getting into that a little bit more, but there's only so much fucking music you can cram into your ear holes every day. So
I think the playlist that we had was like 30 hours long or something. It's just it's retarded, man.
Yeah. I guess the point is just to, listen to full albums, like full projects, so.
And I think like that's like if anyone's looking to start trying to get into the scene and start listening to stuff, like you have to force yourself sometimes to listen to full lengths, because it's hard to get in. It's hard to digest everything. So you have to just start with small bits. We didn't start by just doing the podcast and doing the album of the day and everything first, because that's too much to start off with, and then you're going to get burnt out. So forcing yourself to listen to full-length albums will make you appreciate music more, will then force you to start digging in deeper to other bands, different styles, everything else, and then you'll naturally just want to start learning about more stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's all part of nerding out in the scene. And like, it's one thing to hear a single for a band and be like, that single's a fucking banger, but then it's another thing to listen to a band's projects as a whole, and then you start to like nerd out on the band, and then you follow the band, and then maybe members of that band go and start something else. So then you're like, oh, I want to follow this guy because that guitarist is sick, or, whatever. Like, and then it helps you to kind of like, learn about like different genres and cross genres and like understand like the history of the bands and the music and all that stuff. So just helps to deepen that, like you said, appreciation for it.
A good website if people want to check out is Metal Archives. I'm sure if
Yeah.
you follow the scene, you're happy with that. It's just like it's a blessing because
Yeah.
they dissect everything. There's not
Yeah.
so much like in the hardcore realm or side, but more so like anything death metal related or adjacent, it's there. So that's your Bible.
Yeah, it's like the Wikipedia Bible for metal bands, and you can go in there and if there's a member in a band, like countless times, like we've shared a release with each other, and then I'll go on to Metal Archives or Encyclopedia, and I'll look at the member list, and you'll be like, oh shit, like I didn't realize that this guitar player was also in Suffocation or like, any of these other bands. So you can kind of go down the rabbit hole, and it just makes you appreciate, it makes you appreciate it that much more, so
And the
it's,
sound too. Sometimes the
yeah,
sound it travels from band to band. You're like, why does a band sound like that? And then you
yeah,
realize the member used to be a part of that band, so that's why they sound very, very similar. So
yeah. It's just fucking nerd shit. That's all it is, man. Nerd shit, nerding out.
I'm telling you, it's just
So,
like it's a black hole. It's like once you start, you can't stop. It's terrible.
yeah, yeah. Okay, well, let's get into it. So we're gonna break this down by these are all the releases that we listened to for January, and we're gonna break this down by genre umbrella. So of course, if you're talking like black metal, death metal, they're all kind of under the metal genre umbrella. So that's kind of how we're gonna do it. It's just so we don't overcomplicate it because there is a lot of crossover, especially nowadays. And sometimes, if we get it wrong, if we put it in the wrong umbrella,
Who gives a
we're
shit?
fucking gives a shit. Whatever. It's close enough. Yeah. So we'll start. I'm a core kid at heart. I grew up listening to like metallic hardcore, mathcore. That's what kind of like got me into this kind of music. And so I figure we'll start with the cores.
Let's do it.
We'll start with it's the cause, of course.
Of course.
Of course, it's the cause. Sound like I'm from Boston.
Boston, Massachusetts.
Get in the car with the dogs.
I want to hear somebody roast our Canadian accents and see what we sound like. We sound like.
Yeah.
Fucking.
All right. Here's the first one for January. Is a band called Gnostician, and the album is called Unification As An Art. This album, Unification As An Art, was released on January 10th. These guys are from Pennsylvania. And best way I can describe them is they're an amalgamation of insanely chaotic, crazy mathcore with a lot of like melancholic post-hardcore influences. And then a lot of that blistering deathcore aggression. So like especially that kind of like MySpace era of deathcore. And these guys kind of take like a dual vocal approach. And when I first heard this album or heard this band, like a couple of the singles that came out, I was like, oh fuck, this sounds like a band called Sleep Sculptor. But then I was today years old when I found out that it's actually the guys from Sleep Sculptor.
No way.
Yeah, so I'm like, fuck, this is sick.
I didn't even know that.
It makes sense. Yeah. So
it's just like if you pretty much love like Tony Danza, Frontierer, like that's right up your alley with a bit more like metalcore influence, not so much that like full gent all the time.
yeah.
So it's a good balance of both.
Yeah, and like high pitched vocals. Like they do the highs and lows, kind of like the chainsaw vocals, but it's like the high pitched screams are kind of more like the screamo style. But yeah, there's a band called Under the Pier, and they're a great like if you like Under the Pier, then you'll love Gnostician. So yeah, sick.
It's a good start.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So next up we got, it's not a new album, but it's a 20th anniversary release, and it's August Burns Red with Thrill Seeker.
Fuck yeah.
And like I can't imagine a better album to have a re-release than this one, because that mid 2000s era for metalcore is so influential. Like As I Lay Dying, early Bring Me the Horizon, Kill Switch, it shaped a lot of modern bands today. So the fact that they decided to do a better version, I think, is well warranted. If you have to listen to the new release versus the old release, because the production is much better. It's much crisper. You hear the guitars, you hear the drums, they hit more with a punch. It's not so what's the word I'm looking for? Like so hollow in a sense.
Yeah.
Which I think was pretty prominent back in the mid 2000s.
Yeah, so I remember Thrill Seeker was one of the most probably one of the most influential albums for me. I remember hearing it. I think it was my buddy Rhett actually that showed me Thrill Seeker, and I was like, my mind was blown. I'm like, this thing is so like technical. Like it just blew my mind way open, and it was very like mathy. So like you know, in its like approach, and you know, definitely like a metallic hardcore or like melodic, like melodeath approach to their writing. But like that album was almost too abrasive for a lot of people. Like I knew people that got into August Burns Red from Messengers, from like, I think that was their second album, and they would go back and listen to Thrill Seeker and they're like, oh, this is way too chaotic for me, you know? So the fact that August Burns Red they're this massive like festival selling out festivals and like playing in front of thousands of people band now, for them to go back and like actually spend the time to re-record this album with Jake, who's been like their longest standing vocalist, is actually like super sick, because they didn't have to fucking do that.
No,
you know. So that was again, a huge thing.
It just goes back to the influence and how important it is and how ahead of their time their sound was.
Yeah, it's a fucking banger. If you're looking to throw down, you know, you want to fucking party in the pit, like that's an ass beater of an album front to back. So, and there's some like classics on there that are just like, ooh, brings me back for sure.
I was 3 years old when that original album came out, so I don't remember anything.
Yeah, you were just a thought in your.
I was just a fetus. I wasn't dying. I was just a fetus.
Yeah. Okay, next up we've got this was actually a fucking sick release. It's a band called Vertex, and they put out an album called The Purest Light. It was released on January 17th. These guys are from France. This was a fucking unreal release for me. I love Car Bomb. I love like bands like that and like early Meshuggah. And this was like all of those vibes. If you took Car Bomb, Old Dillinger, Fear Factory, like that like industrial kind of like groove, and like Chaos Fear era Meshuggah. That's this album in a nutshell. So again, it's like, I know it's this band I think has been around for a while, but it's like a newer release, and it gives you all of those throwback feels.
Yeah, they've been around since 2018.
Okay.
They came out with an EP in 2019, but this is their first full length, and I think they've been working on it for quite some time. Yeah. And again, it's fucking punishing. It's just because a lot of it, I think, it gets lost because when those earlier albums, like you had mentioned, like Chaos Fear, Car Bomb, everything kind of around that time period, that was just the production that they had. They weren't trying to overproduce anything. And I think the fact that they are bringing that back, even when they have the access to make it really polished and everything, just keeping that raw intensity is what makes it really stand out.
Yeah, like most bands now, I find they're going for like that high octane core shit, and it's like the modern sound now. These guys are like, fuck that, we're gonna the other way with this. Like, we're going back to that like old sound that so many people in the community fell in love with, like the early Dillinger and like that early Meshuggah stuff, and they're like, we're going full tilt on this sound, and but they make it their own, obviously, but it's like crazy fucking syncopated chugging riffs and crazy like angular rhythms and really insane drumming, and like you said, the production is obviously a lot better than Meshuggah's Chaos Fear. So,
but I mean, so influential, right? It's just, I forget who said it. It was some Canadian artist, and it was just, I think he said something along the lines of, everybody from now on is ripping off Meshuggah or something.
Yeah.
Shit, I forget who it is. I just read it the other day.
But it's true though. I mean, they're such an influential band. Probably the most influential in metal.
I saw a video of them when they were playing, I think this was back in 97. They were playing on Swedish live TV. So they were playing like Cumulative. They were playing like basically their full album just on live TV. And
back when they sounded like a more pissed off Metallica.
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck? This is on TV.
Yeah,
But that's Sweden, so
the
we go
Swedish.
figure, right?
Yeah, if they're not building IKEA furniture, then they're pummeling you with fucking gent and
That's how they test
death
their
metal.
furniture. They're like, can our IKEA furniture withstand someone being thrown into?
Yeah, yeah,
That's their quality control department.
yeah. Don't worry, we'll get into the Swedish death metal here.
Oh yeah, we will. Alrighty, but we don't got Swedish death metal up. We got some UK hardcore and grindcore with Trauma Bond, but their release Summer Ends, Summer Long Gone. And these guys, they formed around 2020, first full length after 2 EPs, but they got a really unique sound. I couldn't find anything that was super comparable to them, because they got some chunky hardcore riffs, and then they got some grind in there as well, and then they have like a dissonance sound that overlays everything, but then yet somehow they incorporate like brighter elements on top of the dissonance. I don't know how to explain it, but it's super unique. Like borderline noise rockish.
Yeah,
But it's just like super diverse, and it's yeah, it's like basically whatever you're thinking at the time in your mood, it's just like it's there.
yeah. It's really pissed off and cathartic, like vocally. I think it's a duo. I don't know
Yes.
if they're like a couple or whatever, but female vocalist, and man, she is fucking insane. Like pure aggression in the vocals. The one cool thing that I found after, like, I listened to it and I'm like, man, this sounds like a Death Wish band, or like a I was trying to put my finger on it, and then I was reading about it, and Kurt Ballou from Converge. I'm not sure if he recorded it, but he owns a studio and stuff, that he, like, for him to co-sign a band is like god tier, he is such an influential person in the scene. But Kurt Ballou from Converge, he co-signed them by playing guitar on the album. I don't know how much guitar he played, but they gave him a shout out, and that's fucking huge. So, I mean, doesn't get much cooler than that, Like, even if they didn't record with him, the fact that he was like, I want to play guitar on your fucking album, that's like cool.
That says a lot.
Yeah, that'd be like if you were like a progressive death metal band, or like a big, or like a, not a big death metal band, but like a smaller death metal band, and then you're like, Will Putney wants to play guitar on a song or something.
Yeah, he wants to produce your album. You're like, what the fuck? Sure.
That's it. Yeah, it's a crazy cosign. But yeah, great. It's like power violence meets chaotic hardcore meets grindcore. There's some like twinkly elements in there. There's some ambience, like electronics. And then there's a fucking, right at the end, there's like a 9-minute long song, which is really cool. Yeah, it's just a great release. So
yeah, good for them. Good for the UK.
Fuck yeah. Last but not least, I guess, in the cause, we've got we've got a release by a band called Fourthsun, and the album's called Eclipse. These guys are a 4-piece from Italy. This album was released January 30th, and they play kind of like a mix of, it's very screamo influence, but it's kind of like blackened post-hardcore, kind of mathcore, lots of like, it's, you know, pretty melodic, lots of screamo influence. Like for fans of like Converge or Poison the Well, Old Cave In, even there's some botch kind of like guitar parts in there. It's a really cool release. Pretty progressive, pretty melodic. I mean, it's very emotional, as screamo tends to be. You know, it's emo, but they're screaming. And there's some cool like tappy guitar parts, so kind of like the botch style guitar. But I love the feel of it. It feels like really underground. It has like this cool artistic like aesthetic throughout the album. And I love it when bands aren't trying to be something that's like trending, you know, like the high octane core bands right now. They're not, it's not a trendy sound right now. It's not a sterile sound. It's not like an overproduced album. It's just like, you know, you can tell that they're super nerds when it comes to their screamo and mathcore and stuff like that. And that's the shit that I like, more underground stuff.
And the Italian scene isn't like overwhelmed with bands either. So they can kind of afford to be a bit more unique with their sound, because they just know that they're going to stand out regardless. So
yeah, like Italy's got some like really crazy black metal influence in their hardcore. Like their stuff is usually really, really dark sounding. Like there's a band called The Secret, and they're like heavy black metal influenced hardcore. And yeah, these guys are a little bit more on the brighter side of the spectrum, which for an Italian band is you know, don't really see that too often, but it's cool.
That's exactly what I put. I put screamo vocals, but guitars are brighter than traditional post-hardcore.
Yeah.
It's just like,
yeah. 666.
Okie doke. So we got that's it for the cause.
It's up to the cause.
We got one album that we've categorized into sludge / doom for January. And what we had in January, there was a release from a UK sludge hardcore band called Praetorian with their release Pylon Cult. So like they've been around for a while too. They've been around since 2015, and for a debut album, I don't think many people would imagine that this would be a debut album. Their tone to me sounded a lot like Cancer Bats. But imagine Cancer Bats, but you tuned it down a half step, and then the vocalist, instead of having like the super high pitched vocals, he's singing with a hoarse voice.
Yeah.
And like that's Cancer Bats. So
Yeah.
I think like having that like scrappier vocals work super well with the sludgy riffs, and it's goes to show how diverse that subgenre could be with different styles and with different influences, and how like you can rub shoulders with Cancer Bats and yet have a completely different sound.
Yeah, when I listened to the album, I was like, I'm like, okay, where is this going to go? Because it was the first time I've heard of this band before, and I was like, okay, it's pretty down tempo. You know, there's definitely sludge influence in there, but then there's some like straight up punk influence, and there's like black metal, like, and then some death metal, but it's got a lot of like earworm hooks and catchy riffs that kind of keep you hanging on throughout the whole album. And it's a good album to listen to when you're just like driving in your car, or if you're just like doing, you know, mundane tasks, you're out and about for a rip or something like that. You know, from the vocal side. So there's a vocalist from a band called Zayo. His name is Daniel Wayand, and he sounds like a fucking pterodactyl when he screams. It sounds like he has glass in his throat. It has just that like kind of like wet sound. Like,
yeah.
And it's raspy, right? It's really raspy. So the vocalist from this band reminds me of Daniel Wayand a lot, when the way he screams, and just like the pitching, like the different pitches and stuff, and just that like glass shard raspy vocal approach.
But
so
it so well with the sludge, because it's just the sludge makes you like
dirty. It's dirty.
Up. Yeah,
it's dirty. Yeah, that's sick.
So
that was a great.
It was a good
great album. Yeah. So is it death metal time?
I think it's death
metal. Death metal time.
Death metal, black metal, tech death, whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's metal time.
Yeah, in the metal umbrella, we've got old school death metal, tech death, dissonant death metal, mellow death, brutal death, slam, anything death metal, black metal, doesn't matter. It's in there.
This is our biggest subgenre by far.
Yeah, man, death metal is making a fucking savage comeback, and if 2025 is anything like 2024, look out, we're in for a freaking sandwich.
Yup. Our ears are going to be bleeding by the end, in a good way.
Yeah. So, yeah, first up, I guess we'll jump into it here for death metal. So first up was, this was actually like a real early release in January, but what a fucking ass beater this was. It's a band called Mutagenic Host, and the album's called The Disease Machine. And these guys are from London in the UK. And this album was released January 3rd. And best way I could describe it is it's got that old school death metal, but it has a lot of hardcore influence. Like there are some real nasty, just stompy parts where you're just like, ooh, I just want to fucking throw down hard in the pit.
Do a spin kick or two.
Yeah, it's just like slimy guitars and bubbly bass lines, and it's real like just stompy and gross. It feels like it's like filth oozing out of a swamp. Like it's just, but the themes of it are like kind of like futuristic AI taking over the world type shit. But yeah, musically, fucking ass beater. You know, it's gonna be it's a deadly one.
And like all the reviews that I've seen on it too have been super, super positive on it, and I can see why. There's even like little like thrash elements in there too, which somehow work well, and you don't hear much thrash in modern music anymore, or at least how it's presented. So
but I think the old school aesthetic, like it's definitely a death metal forward, old school death metal, but the riffs are like, ooh, you know, like there's some death metal, there's some like crossover bands where it's like it's like a hardcore band or like a beatdown hardcore band that they listen to death metal, and it's just kind of like just open notes and breakdowns and like easier riffs that are meant for the mosh pit. This is like really well thought out songwriting, and the hardcore two-steppy parts are kind of just like snuck in there. Like a really nasty riff will just lead into like kind of like a D beat, and you're like, ooh, you know, like kind of surprisingly, it's not obvious, if that makes sense.
It's like when the teenager grows up and moves out of the house, and it's like, now you've matured, you know how to handle yourself now.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's sick album.
That one I think is gonna probably be on most people's list. I think at the end of the year, I think it'll be close.
It's one to keep an eye out for sure.
Alrighty, next up we got a one-man project. We got a few one-man projects on this list, but this will be the first of them. It's by a one-man project called Choir with Smithe the Smoldering Providence.
Smythe the Smoldering Providence.
Pardon me. Whatever. Anyways. Portal, then you're gonna love this. There's like tons of super dark themes. Obviously the fast black metal, the parts, some doom elements in there as well that I think Portal does so well. It's very prominent in their sound, and it's just it's an overall just it's haunting, borderline haunting, which for a place as how should I say, like secluded as Singapore is, where they're super strict on just their whole life. This must be just like an escape for him, just to be like, fuck it, I need to let everything out.
Yeah.
And it's so prominent.
Yeah, it's a great it's a black hole, really. It's a black hole. That's the best way I can describe. But once you're sucked in, you're kind of stuck there, and you have to listen to it from front to back to really understand it. But it's probably one of the heaviest things I've ever heard. Like it's doom, but it's like funeral doom, which has a lot of black metal, like, you know, lots of trem picking and stuff like that. Portal is a great example. a band called Alterage, great example. But with the guitar tones of a band like Nightmare or Knoll. Like if you took Knoll and took out like the pterodactyl vocals, like his crazy fucking high pitched vocals, and less of the grind, kind of like noodly guitar work, or like super crazy fast shredding, and it was just the doomiest parts of Knoll, that would be this project, Choir. But it's like that throughout. And technically, I think this project was released back in December on Bandcamp, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if it was
like end of December.
I don't know if it was like a full, like, I don't know what the story is, but I didn't notice it on Spotify until January 4th. So that's why I was like, fuck it, let's just include it in January. But
you need all the excuses we can get.
Yeah, but it definitely deserves its flowers because it's a really heavy, pummeling album. The guy, I think his name is Thayan, like the guy who started the project and does all the instrumentation and vocals and everything. I'm pretty sure because he works really closely with Total Dissonance Worship, which is like one of the guys from Nightmare, the band. I'm pretty sure this guy had a hand in the re-recording of Nightmare's Deformity Adrift re-release. And so if you listen to this and then you go back and you listen to that re-release of Nightmare's Deformity Adrift, you'll be like, oh, okay, I get it now. Like the guitar tone, like it's crazy. So
that one,
I don't know how much influence he had in there, but I remember reading something where he did. So super fucking cool.
I might have to go check that one out too.
Yeah.
Because that's the one thing I've like, if for people who maybe think these are hard albums to listen to, sometimes you need to dip your foot in, listen to it, and then go back to other music that you've had a hard time listening to in the past. I promise it gets easier. You pick up on certain parts that some of the more like quote harder bands to listen to that are more chaotic or have more depth to their sound. Once you go back to some of the other bands, it becomes much easier.
Yeah,
so
and not
if anything,
not,
use it as like a training aid.
Yeah, and not to be like super over pretentious or anything, but it's kind of like it's kind of like a good scotch, you know? It's like you're like, oh, I want to be able to drink scotch and I want to like it. And I kind of think I like it, but every once in a while, you know, maybe I'll have a little sippy poo here or there, you know, and then it's like, okay, that was a little bit harsh for me. Maybe I'll try like some bourbon, you know. So then you go back to the bourbon and you're like, okay, I get this now. You know, scotch is just a peatier, you know, whiskey. And then, you know, it kind of makes you appreciate it a little bit more, and then it grows on you. It grows on you like a cancer.
I love scotch. Cancer.
but it's like
better one than that.
But then every once in a while you're like, I've had too much scotch. I just want like a Lucky Lager or something. And then you put on your fucking ass beater or something.
Yeah. And then you want the deathcores, like your mixers, like your seltzers, because they're just super easy to digest. So who knew alcohol and death metal? Okay. Next up, we got another death metal band, super diverse death metal band, called Faith Xtractor, with their release Loathing and Noose. So these guys have been around for a while, since '05. Like the base of their sound is definitely that old school death metal, but there's certain parts throughout the album where you got some thrash, there's some black, you got some melodic death metal in there. It definitely is fused with a lot of subgenres. So it's this one I think is great for like a mass crowd pleaser, because basically whatever subgenre you really are looking for, you're gonna find it in here. And like maybe it's not gonna be the whole album, but it's just gonna scratch that itch for you no matter what.
Yeah, it's very straightforward. It's like at its core, it's like really straightforward, no bullshit, meat and potatoes death metal, but with like super crazy face melting solos and like ripping fast riffs and blast beats, and but it has everything. Like it's like a stew of death metal, thrash, doom, mellow death, sludge. Like they did a really cool job with that. You can tell like they've been in the game for I think over 20 years, these guys. So there's lots of influence in there. It's fucking sick release though.
I agree. So I think this is one that's gonna be up there at the end, but it's so tough to judge because it's like you think, man, these are so good, and then you get into July, August, and you're like, what the fuck? There is just so much shit here. So it's hard to not jump in head first and just think like everything is gonna be so good to the end, but it's just you can't help but want to have it. So it'll be interesting.
Okay, next up we've got we're getting into tech death territory here. This is a band from Germany. They're a prog tech death band called Synaptic, and this release is called Enter the Void. So this album was released on January 15th, and it's a really great mix of melodic and technical death metal with some prog elements that are sprinkled, like some experimental shit that's sprinkled throughout. There's some sing-songy parts, but for the most part, it's like tech death, super fast. If you like old Black Dahlia Murder, Neuraxis, bands like First Fragment, like insane sweeping guitars, fucking mind melting solos, and then this like beautifully melodic, like mellow death composition throughout. It's I think this album was a bit of a sleeper, but there, in the blogs and in the Facebook groups and stuff, the people who know like that are really into like their tech death, this was like a chart topper for them.
But they've been around for, I think I found it like 07 or something. But like only having one full release, because they basically poured their heart and soul into this album. And like it's obvious that they did. And like you're saying, like old Black Dahlia, then there's some parts where it's Black Dahlia, but it's turned up a 1.5 times speed. It's great, but like that kind of that, I wouldn't call it dissonant, but kind of that horror style mellow overlay scene is still there.
It's got some like really dark ambience.
That's good work. Somebody cracked open the thesaurus before we started.
The thesaurus.
The thesaurus dinosaur.
Okay.
Back to some Swedish death metal here. Got
The Swedish.
this is the Swedish Disrupted with Stinking Death.
This affliction you can't repel. On a human urge, a need to feed on the rotten dead. You hunger for flesh, fresh from the grave is when it is best. Buried underground, or putrefied, enticingly ripe. With the sweet smell of death inside your eyes, a thirst for putrefaction that cannot be quenched. Oh, so pure this land.
And this is Stinking Death is a perfect name for this album because you know you got sweet. When you hear the word Swedish, you're thinking, okay, it's either gonna be stupid technical or you're gonna get buzzsaw HM2 sound. And this you get a little bit of both. So the one like they're not reinventing the wheel in terms of like creative sound writing or anything. It's just like they do Swedish death metal so well. Like the riffs are fast, the riffs are punishing. Again, like not reinventing the wheel in terms of anything drastic. Like if you like early Entombed, then you'll like these guys.
Yeah, this music is like perfect for lifting heavy things in the gym. Like it's not overly complicated, but it's fucking pissed off. It's crusty. It's heavy as fuck. You know, I love, I mean, the HM2 thing, there's so many bands that like play that style through that distortion, but it's like raw and it's untamed and it's like just gross sounding. So if you're in for ass beaters, it's a great style of death metal to listen to.
Go over to Sweden and pick up a chick and listen to some Stinking Death. You got yourself one hell of an evening.
Next up, we're back in tech death territory, and this was another just absolute skull crusher. Kind of came out of nowhere. Is a band called Fleshbore, and their album's called Painted Paradise. So this album was released on January 24th, and these guys are from Indiana, and they are on arguably my favorite music label right now, which is Transcending Obscurity. They are just, man, banger after banger after banger. They're kind of, Transcending Obscurity is kind of becoming that label. Like back in the day, if you were on Relapse, if you were a Relapse band, if you said, we're on Relapse or that's a Relapse band, you'd be like, okay, I have to listen to them because I know they're going to absolutely rip. And it would be like, Death Wish was like that. If you're a Death Wish band, okay, this is going to be a ripper. And I feel like Transcending Obscurity has not missed, lately. Everything they've put out is just like, whew, crazy. But this album is like, if you like Archspire, you'll love Fleshbore. It's like insanely fast, insanely technical. The guy's vocal range is insane. he goes from like the blistering highs to the blood curdling lows, and he's super fast with his pacing. You know, he's like keeping up with the trem picking and like the crazy blast beats. It's kind of like Ollie from Archspire a little bit. But then there's also these elements throughout the album which are kind of like throwback elements in a way. So it's like, so there's a lot of chainsaw vocals. So they're doing, you know, either somebody else in the band is doing backup vocals, or they're doing like 2 vocal tracks where it's like highs and lows at the same time. That's a real like early mid 2000s MySpace deathcore type of vocal style. So I love how that's like present in this album. And then there's some gang vocals. So like gang vocals are when the whole band goes into the recording booth and they're just like, you know, and it's like, it's usually before like a 2-step part or something like that, right? But that's present in there too. So you're like, okay, this is cool. Like it's like Archspire, but then with the technicality and the pacing and stuff like that, but then
the machine gun feel.
Yeah, but then it's like the guitar playing is actually like, it's like necrophagist level guitar playing, extreme technicality. And then the dirtiness of like the chunky and the chuggy groovy guitar parts, it's similar to like that Cognitive album that came out last year.
Yeah, Abhorrence.
Or Archaic, or, you know, there's this band from Chicago called Wounds, and they play like a chunky, chuggy, groovy style of tech death like that. So it's just a fucking banger, you know? And it's one of those ones you could like listen to it over and over again. And yeah, I think those guys are going to blow up.
They better.
Yeah.
But one thing I think is really, really hard to do is to try and replicate what Ollie does with like his rapping when they have the blast beats and everything. Because I listened to this album and then I flipped over and I listened to some Archspire, and you're like, what the fuck? It sounds like Ollie's rapping at twice the speed of these guys, and these guys sound like they're on speed. And Ollie sounds like he's in some other universe. It's stupid. Like you got to give Archspire their flowers. I don't think anybody can rival them, but I think Fleshbore is probably the closest thing on the scene to them. And you got to give them their flowers
for sure. And they're like young guys, right? So it's like, you know, for them to play this style of music, which is not easy to do. And I mean, I can't imagine like playing, if you're on a, you know, long tour, like playing that shit live every night like that. That would be tough. It'd be tough on the body, I think.
Even writing that, I want to imagine trying to write all that.
Yeah, that's fucking dope.
Poor guys, but they like it. So yeah, we got another tech death band. I don't even know if I would call it tech death. They're like, that's probably the closest because these guys are so experimental.
Yeah.
It's by another new band called Discordant Meditation with their release Tragic Creature. Again, you got some glances of some brutal death metal, some black matter metal as well. I'd say the closest band to this would probably be like a lighter version of Disentomb. But
Mm,
I wouldn't like knock these guys
yeah.
because Disentomb is fucking heavy as shit. But
Hmm.
in terms of their tone, it's probably the closest I would say would be Disentomb.
Yeah.
Essentially they're like the underground metal chameleons. They're kind of floating around, just feeling out everything, taking little bits and pieces here and there.
Yeah.
And these guys are only a two-piece too, which so
Yeah.
to create that heaviness and everything is just it's brutal.
Yeah. Like I listened to it and I thought Replicant, um, you know, like maybe some like slammy parts, like some early Pyrexia. There's some dirty like riffs in there that are kind of like, you know, these really like steamroller type riffs where it's just like, yeah, just I don't know. They have a lot of style to their playing, I feel. The drumming is like phenomenal. It's just
Mhm.
like really stylistic, like their fills and everything. It's not just straight up blast beating. It's like groovy, technical. You know, there's some parts that are like if the guitars were tuned differently, it would be almost kind of mathcore in a way. Um, but like, yeah, sick release. I love that album.
And you
I'm
kind of stumbled it by accident too.
I was actually listening to Replicant on Spotify, and I was listening to their newest album. And then when you finish an album, it just kind of like auto playlists, right? It just like starts playing something that's similar. And so
Mhm.
this came on, and I was like, oh shit, what is this? And then I thought it was more Replicant, like from like an earlier album or something. And then I'm like, no, that doesn't sound like the vocalist. But yeah, I'm all over it. I love that shit. It's very avant-garde. It's very experimental, but it's technical, you know. Um, but yeah, a lot of style with their playing. You can
Mhm.
tell they're very skilled musicians. So
Which is a good good variation because sometimes when you have everything, it's just 100% all the time. It gets stale. So when
yeah,
you have that variation in their groove, it helps to make the listening experience that much easier. So
yeah, for sure. All right, we're ripping through here. Okay, so we got next up is an album called The Great Architect by a band called Subterranean Lava Dragon, which is a fucking killer name, by the way.
band name of the year. Boom.
Yeah, band name of the year. I don't know where that came from, but that's fucking sweet. But this album came out January 29th. These guys are from Pennsylvania. It features members of a band called Black Crown Initiate, which is a really good band. These guys play like a modern, technical but melodic, prog kind of death metal. Um, this album and this project was 15 years in the making, and it shows. Like when you listen to it, it's a masterpiece. It's like the songwriting is unbelievable. It's like perfected. Super technical, super groovy. There's some really cool like synth elements. There's some like sing-songy parts, but like, man, it's so good. A very listenable album. Um, you know, there's not one track where I'm like, I can miss this track. Like every from front to back, it's a great album to rip through front to back.
It made me feel
super
like I was in a
enjoyable
washing
listen.
machine. It's just
Yeah,
like, yeah, like you're bouncing around the whole time, and then it's just like,
yeah,
oh wait, cycle's over. I guess now we're spinning now. We're not going back and forth.
yeah,
It's almost like, kind of reminds me of like if The Hobbit went awry and you started playing they're going on they went off the trail on their journey,
yeah,
and
yeah.
this is what they would be listening
Yeah,
to.
it's an experience album. It's like you have to listen to it front to back. It's yeah, it's really good. The if you like bands like Divinial Verdict or Carnosis or Slaughtersun or something like that, in terms of like the groove and the atmosphere, the technicality, you'd love this this album. It's
A little bit of a
fucking
Legion
great.
too.
Yeah, Legion.
Now we're back to Scandinavian territory, but now we're listening to some Finnish death metal with Tormentor Tyrant with the release Excessive Escalation of Cruelty. So this one you need a seatbelt in to strap
Put your
on,
diaper
because
on.
there's no brakes. It's all gas, no brakes.
Yeah.
You can definitely tell they're inspired by like mid to late 90s
Hell
death
yeah.
metal. So like Deicide, I would say
Yeah.
is a good comparable, because they don't have like the super long guitar solos. It's just like little blips
Straight to the
here and
point.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and again, I think that makes it so great because there's no filler. It's just basically an old school death metal fan's wet dream. It's perfect.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. If you like early Cannibal Corpse or Bolt Thrower, just like super angry, pissed off, how death metal's supposed to be. Death metal's supposed to be fucking scary,
Mm-hmm.
This is like an ode to like the scary death metals. There's no fucking around. It's like grindcore level intensity. Very similar to Dying Fetus, actually, in the intensity.
Yes, that there is.
Yeah.
But they stick to the formula. It's just like
Yes.
they know what they do, and they do it well.
Yeah.
And it's basically what you're getting, which
Yeah.
I think is probably the best way you can go about
You know
it.
what? You know what's going to be a killer album when they're screaming. I don't know what the lyric is, but like it's one of their last songs, one of the last songs in the album, and it's like Tormentor Tyrant. So they're like, when you're screaming your own name, then it's like, okay, you're fucking awesome.
You're heavy as shit.
Yeah, yeah. And you can do that and it sound cool, then
You got some balls.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we're going back to Denmark. Or we're going to Denmark now.
Yeah, we haven't been there yet. We got some stuff.
Yeah, we haven't been there yet.
We've
been to Sweden and to Finland, and now we're going to Denmark. So this is Swedish death metal, but done better than the Swedes in Denmark. So this is a band that's been around for over 30 years. They're called Maceration, and the album is called Serpent Devourment. These guys are from Denmark. These guys are pioneers for this style of death metal, for this style of HM2 buzzsaw guitar death metal, but death metal, like Danish death metal in general. If you like bands like we mentioned before, Entombed, Dismember, any Swedish old school death metal bands, but like crazy D-beat drumming. This album, when I listen to it again, it's like I get like all of the, I want to lift things up and put them down vibes, but I also want to, like, this band in particular makes me want to fucking buy a motorcycle. I want to buy a Harley. I want to just like skull crush beers and like, fucking
grow a big fat beard and shave your head.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Just
Get my leather.
Viking.
Yeah, exactly. Great tunes for the gym, great tunes for, this is like good push mosh music. Like if you're in a pit and, there's no karate moves, it's just big dudes slamming into each other.
That's the only way that's the only way I think you can describe it.
So
there's not a lot, like there's not very many slow parts either. It's just one where even if there are some slower parts, then it's followed up right away with something super punishing. And it somehow it works good. It's like it's hard. Okay, you get a 20-second breather. Fuck you, we're going back again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's enough. And I somehow, it just, even though we have a couple releases with that kind of have that same HM2 sound, I think they have a bit more brutality than some of the other bands.
Yeah, plus they're,
because being around for so long.
Yeah, plus they're old boys, right? So it's like, they're fucking still going hard. Like there's no excuses why we can't still go hard,
No, they got something to prove. So this one is a Belarusian brutal death metal band called Relics of Humanity with the release Absolute Dismal Domain. This band is like a godsend to me. It is some of my favorite music all put together. I fucking love this Entomb. I love Defeated Sanity. And the fact Defeated Sanity in terms of you got that tight ass snare, it is right there. This Entomb where you have those low gutturals and just the almost grindy-ish black core style.
Kind of like playing. Devourment. Like early Devourment. Yeah.
And it's like it's an ass beater. But except there's no let up in this one either. It's just front to back, straight ass beater, which I love. If I'm gonna be turning into a caveman, I think this is what I would probably gravitate towards most.
Yeah, I call this Oonga Boonga Knuckle Dragger brutal death. So it's like I just imagine, caveman with a big bone, and he's like dragging it through the cave. It's like super down tempo grooves. It's kind of slowed down, but it's just like really heavy. And I love the way that they produce it. Like this album, when I listened to it, I was like, is this thing mastered? Because it sounds almost like live.
It's pretty raw.
Yeah, it's very raw, unfinished. But I think that's what they're going for. They want that unfiltered nastiness. You know, it's just like very dark and ominous and unsettling. Best way I can describe it is suffocating. It's like a suffocating, like you're getting choked out by a caveman, and he's gonna beat you.
He's gonna waterboard you.
Yeah.
Now
But
listen to music when that's happening to you.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I think it's something where you shouldn't go into it with the expectation that it's going to be musically insane, like a Defeated Sanity, how they're so diverse with their like their jazz influence and their odd signatures and everything. But just the jazz hands. But just go into it knowing it's gonna blow your ass out.
Yeah,
and you'll be fine.
Beat you into submission. Yeah, sick. So next one on the list here is a band called Unreal Overflows with their album Slaves of the Human. Man, try again. Unreal Overflows, Slaves of the Inhuman Future World.
There you go.
And they're a Spanish technical melodic death metal band, formed in 2001. This is their third full-length album.
Yeah.
And yeah, it musically it's like pretty technical. It's like, yeah, very melodic. How would you describe it?
I would say it's like late Death. Like
yeah,
later version of Death when they started getting more progressive.
Yeah.
And I would say, like, if you a more modern example, I guess it was a more modern than Death, would be Blotted Science. Imagine Blotted Science except with vocals. They have not so much, I wouldn't call it the prog style, but it's the technicality of it. It's the playing, not so much the syncopation.
Yeah.
But it's just that kind of lighter playing. They're not super heavy in terms of their playing, but the vocals are very heavy. So the vocals come through a lot more than I'd say that the music does.
Yeah,
but it works really, really well.
It has like almost like a classical guitar approach. Like I feel, yeah, you can tell that maybe they have some like classical training or something. It's a lot of that.
Spanish, a lot of those guys, they just play acoustic guitars all the time, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's only a 37-minute runtime, and I wish it went longer, because it's pretty. It goes by very fast because of, again, kind of that technical aspect of it. But it's just, they come out of the shadows every like 6 or 7 years. I think it's their first album since like 2016 or something. It's been a hot minute. So they just know what to do, and they do it well. All right. And then our last one here in the metal genre, we got another Italian death metal band called Shrieking Demons. They released the Festering Dwellers. again, another death metal band that's got some 90s death metal influence. They got that raw, punchy sound with the harmonic guitar solos and the galloping drums.
Yeah.
I would say probably closer to early Death when they were
Yeah.
more that old school death metal type. A little bit of Autopsy in there as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I saw a few articles and they're like, yeah, this is kind of the bands that were inspired by, which is pretty. I can tell that they were. I would, again, it's just one of those that sticks to the death metal formula, and they know what to do, and they do it well. And if you got that old school death metal itch but some modern flair, then this is right up your alley.
Another Transcending Obscurity release too, which is, it's crazy because of how diverse their portfolio is with their bands on their label. But yeah, this one was a real fun one for me. I wasn't really sure what to expect with it, but I was like pleasantly surprised, and I found myself just like headbanging pretty hard in my car. And when I was listening to it, the songwriting is like actually phenomenal. Like normally when bands try to, do the throwback, classic death metal sound with the classic production, it's pretty kind of like boilerplate or like a rip-off kind of thing. But I found that this one, there was a lot of like really like great riffs, like really great unique riffs, and like the delivery and the feeling and the vibe. Like they put a lot of heart and soul and passion into this thing. And like, yeah, just the songwriting was really, really cool. So it's like if all your favorite death metal bands, like old school death metal bands, just decided to like put out their best album in 2025. Like that's, yeah, it's great. And
it's a first release too.
So which is crazy.
Which is even more impressive.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So I think
they took the time to really.
I think all the members are all in like different bands, but it's like, yeah, it really shows that they're like passionate about this, old school death metal sound. It's very charming. It's very charming to hear this kind of ode to that sound, and it done so perfectly well.
It's like a warm death metal hug. It's like welcome back to back to home.
Welcome to your warm death.
Surprise! You will die in the pit now.
Yeah. All right. So now we're moving on to our other umbrella of sound, which is prog, gent, fall, groove. And there's only one release. There's only one release that was like, I guess, notable for us. There's probably a fuck ton more releases out there. So, sorry, not sorry for not including certain things if we missed certain things.
And if anybody's got anything else that we missed, drop them down.
Yeah, you could always drop it in the old comments, and rip us a DM and we'll listen to it for sure. Likely what we'll do is we'll probably do like a shit we missed episode where it's just like, whoopsies, we missed this one, and kind of talk about it.
We need to do that for 2024, because I think I have at least 5. I can name 5 right now that I missed that I'm like, I wish that was in our year-end list for 2024.
Yeah.
Shout out to Cave Sermon.
Yeah, that's a sick album. Okay, so this album was released as a surprise in the eyes, as they say, on New Year's Day, January 1st. And they just like blew the doors of the year wide open. And that's Mirar with Ascension. these guys are a duo. I think they're classically trained guitar players, but they're a duo from France. And they play the heaviest versions of Viljarta, like the skull crushing Thal type of music, but they play it to like classical compositions. And you know, but it's so punishingly heavy. The best way I can describe it is it's like it gives me all of the dubstep vibes, like early dubstep. You know, it's got a lot of the pitch shifting, you know, and the mind melting alien noises, and like, but it's so heavy that it's almost like a sensory overload.
Mm-hmm. It's one where it's a, how would I say it? Like, it's one that you wouldn't put in rotation a whole bunch because it is a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I would say, like, for any of the new kids out there who don't listen to metal, if you know what fonk is, like PHONK, fonk,
Yeah.
then this is a metal version of fonk.
Yeah,
Where it's
yeah.
just you have that techno side of it with metal influence. It makes Viljarta look like a preschool kid, is what it does.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which is
musically.
stupid musically.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot going on.
And it's purely instrumental, no vocals, which is cool.
Mm-hmm.
But it's almost better that way, I feel like. But it's
how
kind
you
of
put
like,
vocals in there.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like almost like a joke, almost like it's a band that you save in a playlist, and then when you have people that are kind of into metal, but you know they show you their heaviest band, and you're like, I have something for you, motherfucker.
That's cute.
Yeah, that's cute. And then you put this on, and you just like, yeah, blow their mind.
Do you mean like you listen to heavy metal like Iron Maiden?
Yeah. Yeah.
No
Yeah, no,
disrespect.
it's
no disrespect to Iron Maiden, but
no disrespect to the goats.
Don't come for us, but there's a lot
Yeah.
heavier shit.
Yeah, this is like, you know, sensory overload music.
Tripping balls.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely pretty wild. So I went down the YouTube rabbit hole a little bit with these guys, and there's a lot of people that are trying to like play parts from their songs. And I'm not sure if there are tabs for their songs anywhere, but they're just like trying to figure out how to play them, or how they like do these notes or whatever. And it's really crazy. Like and then to like watch these guys play this stuff too is just like number one, how the fuck you write this music, and like, yeah, it's wild.
Like, what headspace do you need to be in to create something like this, and to do it on a regular basis too is insane.
Nick Nocturnal had these guys on at the beginning of the year after they dropped this album, and they're just like the sweetest guys ever. They're just like, you know, super timid and like kind of nerdy, you know. They're like, oh, we play classical music and blah blah blah. It's like, well, how the fuck do you go from this beautiful soft angel music to playing this like crushing, you know, insanity?
You need to take that over to your grandparents' house when they say that you listen to classical music and put them in a care home.
Yeah, exactly.
Give them a poor heart attack.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
so that's it. That tops it off.
That's it for the list.
That's it for January.
Like we said, if we sure as hell missed something, but if there's something else that you guys are ripping, or you think that we should take a listen at, send us a DM, put a comment down below, do something, make us known, because we will listen to it one way or another.
Yeah, man. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks for checking this out, and we'll catch you in February.
Yes, February.
See ya.
Stay metal.
Real heavy!